So it was the day before Christmas. Now, I had something to go with that, but that didn't pan out. Trying to remember where we left off last time we were in this thing. I've been a scatterbrain, I guess, as far as for most of the weekend. So, I have to apologize for that. We did do some work on the Pagani, I guess, as far as the Tempesta. Turned out to be pretty decent from what I can remember. I did feel like, as far as I wanted to do, maybe some more with the GT40. Might take that over to the track just to see what we got. Maybe we'll have some fun over here at the drag strip with this car, because I can't remember where we're at with this one. I think I did determine, I guess, as far as I want to get more performance parts into it, but I don't 100% remember. So we're gonna try this one out, have some fun with it. So let's do quarter-mile runs here. Just get some practice. I have no idea. I can't remember what this thing does do. Like I said, I've been a huge scatterbrain as of late, especially over this past weekend. A lot going on, I guess, as far as you know, let's get ready for Christmas and, you know, the holiday. It's a lot going on, and I'll be glad when it's over. Let's put it that way at this point. So we're going up against the C1 Resto mod. Send this down the strip. See what we got here. Well, she's got a lot of giddy up now. There was one car that I do remember we get beat by, and that's the Paganis. But pretty much any other car, okay, it's all coming back to me now. The Paganis are the ones that are beating us with this car. So let's see if we do get a Pagani. It's all coming back to me now. So yeah, I think we came to the determination that the Paganis are still beating us. So let's just reconfirm this. I think the Paganis are still beating us. No, we actually beat it that time. So okay, maybe we did get this figured out. We're just under 10-3. 10-2. We beat him by about a tenth. That's cool. Let's see if we can get a Tempesta. Maybe we did get this car figured out. I forgot. So, it's gonna have a fun here. So let's see if we can get a Tempesta. And if we don't get one this way, we have another ways to get it. So we got a C1. This, okay, so just the base Pagani. Tempest is afraid of us. That's what it is. There's the Tempesta. Let's try this one out. Can we beat them? Now we have one of these on the rollback, as we saw here before we came over to the strip. Life in the right lane. Might have shifted too early there. Yep, I did. So it's just the Tempesta that's beating us. And so, from what I do remember now, I guess, as far as we got pretty much all of the performance parts that we can in this GT40, so it seems to be the only car, as far as the Tempesta, that'll beat us. We had not too bad of a reaction time, a little bit slower, I guess, as far as in our opponent. So that shouldn't have factored us too well. Let's try it again, just for clarity. Because I do remember now, I guess, as far as we did take this, we did this for the championship, and we didn't lose. You know how I don't know how much I gotta say that over and over. I don't rev. I don't rev. Everybody's got their own style of dragging, and that's not mine. I mean, if you've had success with that, good for you. But it's like, to me, I just feel that's unneeded wear and tear, I guess, as far as on an engine, as far as to rev it. Where the money counts, I guess, as far as is where when you put it, the power to the ground, you know, stand still, I guess, as far as like that. If you want to rev it, go right ahead. I have no, I can't judge, but that is not my style of dragging. But this seems to be the only one, I guess, as far as it has that. This one does have quite a bit of tuning too, I guess, as far as for the Tempesta. Let me do it one more time, and then we're gonna go to another car. But I think this is about the only one that will beat us. I just feel too, I guess, as far as the way you rev, you gotta like hold the brake as you rev it. Whether I use keyboard and mouse or controller, it's a little bit wonky, for me at least anyway. So that's maybe another excuse, if you want to call it that, I guess, as far as for not revving. But also I feel it's just not necessary. If you tune the car just right or whatever, you won't need to rev it. This car is just too fast for us. That's about it. 3 times the charm. It is concluded. That car is fast, and we do have one of those, so it's stands to reason. Let me try the turbo. The game wants revs. Well, the game can have what it wants. I've proven, I guess, as far as more times than not, that you don't need to rev. It's just, when it's just one. Now, if it was every car that I went against, I guess, as far as with this car that I was losing, I might believe that, I guess, as far as somewhat, that you have to rev. But I just call baloney on that. Going against the Turbo Camaro SS. If anything, I feel this car could use a 6th gear. We just barely start to run out of gear, I guess, as far as on 5th gear, as we cross that quarter mile mark. But just about every other car we can beat. So that's another turbo. There's a Tempesta. That's another turbo. Let's try the Xeon one. Just having some fun with this right now. Yeah, we need to figure out what kind of car we're going to work on today. This is a fun car, I guess, as far as the drive, though. Where we have it tuned at. If you just start to run out of gear right there, right at the last second. Yeah, see, every other car we can beat. Just that Tempesta. All coming back to me now. So this one we can even beat. We've done that. Resto mod and just the Tempesta. Just that Tempesta. Okay. So alright, let's head back here to the house. Right in. So, do we have anything in the parking? No, we don't. So we're gonna have to look for something to work on today. We gotta look for something to work on today. So still awesome car, I guess, as far as that GT40, other than the Tempesta, I guess, as far as beating us. I think what I want to do for now is go ahead and put this guy into the parking garage. Okay. And then I want to move him. Yeah, I don't want him where it is. So let's do this. Let's put him over to... let's see, we should have a spot. Let's put him right here for now. Eventually I'm going to have to get another parking garage. We're kind of running out of room here. So we got all of these. These are all drag. We got these set up for relatively a lot of drag. That's a continuation of that. Plus we do have our Revolution and our electric concept car. Hot rods. I started to put hot rods in here, but they're kind of spilling over from my LA3. And then of course these are all of our stock. We haven't done anything with these. They're just stock. We haven't done anything upgrades, performance parts onto these cars. So yeah, eventually probably want to get another garage, and to get one, 125,000. Where are we at now? I guess as far as monies, we could probably get one right now and still be 1 million in the bank. We might consider that if it comes down to it. We'll consider that. So for now that we've got that out of our system, I guess as far as go to the strip, I think we're gonna go ahead and see if we can find a car here. So I think we'll bounce around, I guess, as far as between the barn, the junkyard, and or salvage, and see what we can find. So I think we'll go first. Check out the junkyard. Junkyard's always a good bet. Oh, we got something up here on the porch. What's up here? Oh, that's not really anything we want. Just a Caprice. Yeah, well, they call it an Impala, but I think that's more Caprice, not an Impala. I remember these as a Caprice. Yeah, so we got that. That's been kind of misnamed, I feel. So nothing around the corner. Let's see what other cars we got over here. So we got a drag. Butler Supreme, yep, NC drag. We got one of these in our warehouse. We don't have the side pipes though. We just have the pipes coming out the front and there. We did put a wing on ours as well. What's over here? Nah, not interested. I don't even know what I'm really in the mood for, I guess, as far as to fix up, to be honest. Just kind of wander around, I guess, as far as to see what strikes our fancy. What strikes our fancy? Anything up on the hill? Ooh, what do we got up here? That looks like a resto mod. That is a resto mod. Wow. So it's got all the tires on it. We got to charge them on. Let me up there. There we go. So what is it missing? Missing interior. Looks like it was red. Wow, most of that engine's in there. So it's missing some of the particulars. Yeah, it's got the supercharged LS in it. That's rest of mod. So it's missing all of the particulars as far as ECU and all that good stuff. That would need quite a bit of work, I feel. Might be fun though. We do have, I think, well, looks like I have a black interior. I think we got a black interior in the warehouse. So it's missing the one door. Is that missing that tire? Nope, it's on there, but it's in pretty rough shape. Okay. Let's see. How does the back end look? We'll see how much they want. I know they probably want them a good 50,000 for this one, I bet. I bet it's probably a good 50,000. Pretty close, 44. But we know how much these can go for, I guess, as far as well, so. Alright, so we got any other cars over here? Ooh, what do we got here? This one's a Jaguar? Mercedes-Benz, okay. That's missing both doors. S engine is a mess. Missing quite a bit on that. How much do they want for this guy? 16,000, okay. There's not a lot to be made on these as far as I remember. I think we have worked on one of these before, and we can get maybe around 100,000 if we fix it up. Right around 100,000 from what I can remember. What was this one here? This is a Skyline? What is Supra? Okay. It's the fake Supra. They call it a Sakura. Nah. We might end up checking out a barn. Maybe something that's a little bit better shape in the junkyard. But that rest of them out, I guess, as far as it wasn't terrible. I'd say it's pretty good. We're going to check out a couple piles here, see if we can find the map. If they're out here at, by the gate, I guess as far as we'll take it. But if not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about it. We got well over 100 maps. Barn maps, so it's not a big deal. We got plenty of maps. So, what is everybody ready, I guess, as far as for the holiday? I know I'm not. But I will be glad, like I said, I guess, as far as when it's over. So, we're going to go ahead and head out of here. We didn't find the map, and that's okay. We're going to check out a barn, though. Alright, so what we'll do, we'll check out a barn. Let's check out the barn. Yeah, we still got over 100. Still got over 100. I don't know exactly how many over 100 we have, but we got a few. What do we got over here? This one is what would be considered the Wildcat or the Oldsmobile 442. This one's actually the Blaze. Could be a nice option. Could be a nice option, yeah. Okay, how much do they want for this guy? 23. Alright, let me see. Does it have the bottom end on it? Oh, hold on. It does not have the bottom end on it. So that means the bottom end has been tampered with. So I feel 23,000 might be a little high, just based on that condition. So it's obviously definitely not going to start because of that. We'll think about that one. That might be not a bad flip. Just keeping in mind, I guess, as far as we'll need a complete engine rebuild due to the fact that the bottom end is out of it. So we got another wagon. We already got one of these in the in our garage that has been set up for drag. It's missing all the particulars on it. Common stuff. This one we want 19 for. I think we'll skip on this one. So this is something else I've been trying to figure out with like cars like this one, how it has the inability, I guess, as far as take the wood grain off of it. I wish we could do that. I guess as far as I think this car would be pretty cool, I guess, as far as we had the option to be able to take that wood grain off. That would be super. Ooh, what do we got here? It's like a Reptilia. We like working on these cars. And this one's a Hennessy. This one is what would also be known as the P&8 Bolt Reptilia. So let me see how what condition this thing's in. So, yep, missing ECU, rear muffler. Yeah, pretty much all the particulars. All the particulars. Let's turn the flashlight off. Yep. So rear muffler, power steering reservoir tank, ECU. This might not be a bad one to flip. We do like flipping these. I do anyway.
Racer Batman says I was going to say $100 for funny.
$100 for which one? For which one? This one here? Yeah, I wouldn't think this one. Yeah, definitely not this one. This one usually goes for a pretty good penny. Oh, I'll shut that back off. So we're missing the servo, missing that cover. Yeah, this one might not be a bad flip. Let me see if on the engine, if we have the bottom end. Let's see what we got here. We got the bottom end on this? We do. So the bottom end's on there. That's a good sign. So it's just missing some smaller parts like fuel rails, things like that. Fuel tank. Alright, so if they don't want much more than, I'm going to say 80,000. Yeah, because it is not missing the tires, got all the body panels. A lot of it's here. So I'm thinking about 80,000. 102. That's pushing it. That's pushing it. Not a lot of meat on the bone, I guess, as far as to make if we do buy it and try to flip it. I think that's a little too high for what we got here. Because it's definitely going to need probably a rework on the engine. Here, let me do... did I not? Hold on. Want to... examination. Let me do this. Let me see what we got here. So I'm seeing a lot of yellow, but also a lot of orange. So I'm figuring about the most we can make off of this one is maybe about 50,000. If we flip it, fix it up, maybe 50,000 max. Air cleaner, got the air box. Are we missing an air box? That's just the one air box. There's a lot of the car is here. So we got the transaxles are there. I might just go ahead and do it. Just I'm gonna humor myself with this one. I'm gonna humor myself with this one, just to have fun. 102, you could still make 70. I was thinking more like 50,000 at the most, because I know that this is the Hennessy, and we do have one of our own, and I think we got that over with all the performance parts. It's worth about 230, somewhere in the 200,000 range. But I'm not going to put performance parts on this one. So I think there's a little bit to be made on this, but just not a ton, based on the fact that they want 102 for it. I think we're going to go ahead and get it. But these are always fun to work on. I think we're gonna do it. Let's we're pulling the trigger. Let's do buy it. That'll still leave us over $1 million in the bank. That's cool. Accept, and we're gonna put that into the garage. Nice. So before we leave here, I want to see if we can find the crate. So we did get our car. We're gonna take our crate and go back home. Let's go back home. Majority of the car is here on this car. It just needs a wash, that's for sure. So as it stands right now, without doing anything, 90% on the frame. That's actually pretty good. We might not have to do anything with that. Because we are just going to sell it. We aren't keeping it. I want to make that clear too. This is just going to be a flip. We are in the hole actually, as it currently stands here. So let's go. We'll give it a bath and see what that does. Let's move it over to car wash. Let's see if this increases any of the value. So 11,000 in the hole, I guess, as far as that stands right away. That's kind of surprising. The fact that the majority of the car is here. It's white. Okay, let's do the interior. Those are free of charge. Not a bad color. It's kind of plain, but not bad. So let's see how much we're worth now. That only took about 1,000 off being in the hole. Interesting. Okay, let's get it back over to the lift. We'll work on the body panels. And just fix this thing up a little bit. So, we got our inventory. Oh, it's not cleared out. Whoopsie, I forgot to do this working on the GT40. Alright, we do got our crate to open up. So before we get into that car, let's open up our crate. And we got some inventory clean out here. Yeah, just a little bit. Alright, so we got our inventory cleaned out. We may or may not be able to use some of those parts to get as far as that we just put away onto this car. First thing we want to do now that the inventory is cleaned out is let's work on the body panels. See what body panels we can fix up with. Well, probably headlights aren't repairable, so we'll do fenders. We'll see if we can clean these rims up. I don't know. It's going to be iffy on the rims. Rims look pretty rough, especially on those. Let's do the trunk lid. A lot of this stuff just needs to be refurbished a little bit. Tail lights are not refurbishable. This door. Yeah, a lot of this is in really good shape, actually. Okay, let's go get these over to the table and get them fixed up. So we got the hood. Now let's put these back on. Alright, hood. Front bumper. Okay, we didn't take the headlights out, so we're good there. Fender. Right door. What about glass? Yep, that's still in good shape. Glass is still in really good shape. Yep, we'll keep that. Trunk. I don't think this had glass in it. Oh, it did. Never mind. I lied. Rear bumper. So it looks like it had a brand new rear bumper on it. It didn't get painted. Let's put the license plate back on. Okay. So I think that's all the parts back onto it. Let's see how much she's worth now. We're still in the hole, but we did see how much of a chunk we took out of that. Just almost 5,000. Just fixing up the body panels. Crazy. Alright, so let's get this on the lift. We'll get probably what little engine oil it has in it out of there. So what's the game plan for everybody, I guess, as far as besides stopping in over here? I know getting down to crunch time, I guess, as far as getting that last minute Christmas shopping and all that stuff, probably get that all done. I'm just taking a break, really, I guess, as far as from the festivities that we're going to be having tomorrow here at the apartment complex. It's going to be a good time. It's going to feel good, I guess, as far as just to be able to enjoy all the hard work. Yeah, but what little oil was in there was nasty. That was nasty. Okay, so what we need to do is get these tires off so we can get this engine pulled. Got to take the tires off in order to take the axles out. In order to get the transmission out, to get the engine out. You know, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Can I get over here, please? The heck, man. Oh, I was already in that mode. Never mind. We're good. We'll make this work. so let's get this all taken apart. So we need at least the axles out. Let's get our crane over here so we can get that yeeted out of there. Move this over to here. Yeah, so the color is not, I'm not really feeling the color, but I feel like if we paint it, that's 1,000 credits that we're just putting of our own money into it. So I don't even know if I want to paint it, especially because we know we're not going to keep it. I feel if anything, we might just paint the rear end as far as the rear bumper, because it kind of mismatches as far as the rest of the car. Let's pull that out. Move this out of the way. Let's get this up on the stand. Let's break this engine down and get as far as see what she's got to say. Yeah, needs a little bit of help, that's for sure. Start with the belts, maybe. Yeah. So idler. We've done enough of these to know. Yep, she's shot. So that engine is toast. So that is where we lost a lot of our money right there, as far as needing a block for this. And I don't think I have one of those engines built or a block for it. So on there, Capitano, what's happening? Welcome in. So what we need to check out here, do we have an engine block in here? So I don't think I got one built. Nope, so there isn't one built as far as an LS. Let me look at engines, and let's see if we do have a block in here. I don't think I do. So we got the Coyote, we got a couple of those. I don't have a CGM, which would be the LS engine. Bummer. We're gonna have to probably go looking for one. Alright, cool. Let's get fixed up what we can fix up. And I think we'll do at least one junkyard visit. Alrighty then. So we did get fixed up what we can. Let's take a look and see what wasn't. So we got this one. We got one in the warehouse. That's good. So we'll get that. So block is already on the list. We do have a green one of those in the warehouse. Cool. We'll need a clutch bearing. Cam gear. We don't have a cam, so we'll get a cam. Need that arm. This, I'm going to get that out of the warehouse. Exhaust manifold A. Let me get that out of the warehouse while I'm thinking of it. So that should be in here. Exhaust manifold. That is... Oh, we got a set there. God, I hate to break up the set. I think I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. I'm going to keep that as a set. Yeah, so the fact that the one was repairable, yeah, I'm going to keep that as a set. We'll just buy the one. That'll be good. Okay, so what we'll do, let's get the cross fingers out there. If you are following the channel, get the cross fingers out there, see if you can get this engine block at the junkyard. We're going to do one visit. It's the power of the cross fingers. So here we go. Cross fingers are out there. Let's see if we can get one here today. Okay, we got no cars out here, so let's check the list. We got nothing. So we got unlucky, I guess, as far as this time. I will take a quick look around here really quick while we're here. And just see what kind of cars are here. Ooh, this one's oh, that's the fake Mustang. Never mind. I thought maybe that was one of the OGs. That's the fake one. We already have one of those in our parking garage, so we're good there. What do we got here? So that's a C4 Corvette. Nah. Eventually, at some point, I do want to work on one of those. I think that'd be cool. We got a van. And this one's just a standard van. Yep. Okay, not really interested. Leaving empty-handed. Unfortunately. So we are going to have to buy this engine block, unfortunately. So let's go here. We'll buy the engine block. $21.25 to get the new engine block. That's a good chunk of change. Alright, so we started off with $1,060,000 in the bank before we started working on this thing. So we're already about $6,000 into it. We're fixing up the body panels and repairing some of the parts so far, on top of having to buy that engine block. So let's get this back on the stand. Maybe? Part mount, yes. Alright, let's get this thing put back together now. Now that we got our block. So we do got some pistons. Yeah, we don't want to use these. We got a whole set, I guess, as far as that we pulled out of the Ford GT40. So we're gonna get those out of the warehouse. Where's our pistons? Pistons are right here. We got more than 8 actually. So we need just the regular piston with Conrad. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we got the Hemis there too. So probably need new rings. Let's get some new rings right away. We're gonna make it a green build. I'm gonna try to get real sloppy. Since we gotta go this far with the engine block, I figure we might as well. So we need piston rings for those. Actually, do we need the Hemis for that? I might need the Hemi pistons instead. I better check this before I buy that. Hold on a minute. So do we need the Hemi pistons for this block? Double check here real quick. It is the Hemi ones. Good thing I checked that. So we're gonna need and the Hemi rings. Okay, so that, I'm glad I checked that because obviously we pulled out the wrong ones here from the warehouse. We need the Hemi ones. I knew that. See, I'm just seeing if y'all were paying attention. Cool. All right, let's get those put in. We got everything we need now. Awesome sauce. You get this thing purring like a kitten. Alright, so that engine should be done. Now, let's go over here and we know we need an ECU and all that good stuff. I'll probably have to pull this fuse panel out. Get that refurbished. Alright, so those are good. Get these put back in. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So we're gonna need a battery, and we're gonna have to get this all. Man, I don't know how far I want to go with this. We're missing a module for the brakes. Bummer. So we're definitely low on modules. That's for sure. Let's do part mount. Let's put this fuse box back in. I need a servo, which I think I do have one in the warehouse. Okay, so that one's yellow. That one's not. Oh, excuse me, that one slipped. Alright, so we got all that done. Let's get it in the back here. Yep. We got this fuse panel in the back. Mount that over here. Alright, let's check all these fuses and such. Alright, so there's the cover. Let's see, do we have an ECU in the warehouse? We got 2 yellow ones, so I'm gonna get one of those out of there. Yeah, we're gonna use that. It's yellow, but it's fine. So that's going to be in warehouse 4. ECU right there. 2 type A's. Grab one of those. Slap that puppy in. And with all these parts, used parts that we're putting in here, we're definitely not going to get 100% out of the engine. So we can definitely confirm that right off the bat. Because you need 100% parts to get as far as you get 100% power. So, we'll definitely see how much we lose by doing it this way, but it shouldn't be too bad. I don't think it should be too bad. Let's get these reservoirs. We can take the ECU off of there, so we need a coolant reservoir for the Gatorade juice. We need the Gatorade juice container, yeah. Put those in. I don't even know if I'm going to go so far to fix up the suspension and all that. I don't think I'm going to. I don't know yet. We'll see. I might road test it and see where it's at. So let's unmount this one here. We'll probably have to replace the filter. We're missing 1 clip. Looks like. Let's see what this filter's doing. Filter's in pretty rough shape. Let's go ahead and pull that out. Let's fix up the base. Alright, we might have a filter in the warehouse actually. Alright, so I think as far as filter, we might have one, have a decent one in the warehouse. Let's see what we got here first though. So let's do air filter base. Filter, oh, let's put this on the list. Do I have any of these in the warehouse? Oh, that's not what I wanted at all. Go here. Yes, I have a yellow one in there. Sweet. Let's go grab that one out of the warehouse. That's going to be in warehouse 4. That's it is yeller. Right there. Sure, we'll put that one in there. That'll work. Now, some of you'd be like, you know, it's not that much to put a clean one in there. No, but we have one, so we're doing a flip on this, so why not? Mount. Yep. Cool. See, this looks clean. We shook it out a little bit, it's fine. So do we have... No, we are missing a clip. Okay. We are missing a clip. That's confirmed. We'll have to buy one of these clips. Hold the cover down on the air filter. Okay, that's to confirm. Let's go ahead. Clip. Take that air filter off of there. Clip. Thank you. Alright, there's all that. So, next big chunk of money we're going to have to spend is on this exhaust here. We won't deal with that until we get the engine in. Yeah. I think we're ready for the engine. Let's do the engine. We're done asking this some questions. Let's pull that off. I already know. I just realized I forgot something. I forgot to put sparkulators in. Put it back on there. I forgot to put the sparkulators in. I already know I did. So we got it at 94%. I guess as far as with the combo of used parts, that's not terrible. I don't feel like it's too terrible. A lot better shape than it was in, that's for sure. So we got to go to warehouse 1 and get those sparkulators out of here. 3-star brake servo. God, I hate to put this in the flip car though. Bummer, man. Sparkulators, yeah. Got to keep it sparkulated. There they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Awesome. All right, let's get those put in. Yeah, we weren't quite done asking some questions, so we have to finish it off with putting the sparkulators in. We would have found out pretty swiftly, I guess, as far as when it didn't want to start, or said the engine was incomplete, that we weren't missing these plugs. Sweet, now we should be done with it. Pull that off. Sweet. Now, let's go ahead. Oh, we need our engine crane. Let's get that over to A, and let's get this puppy back in there. Install. Yes. Still at 94 even after putting the plugs in. Not bad at all. Pretty good turnout for that. So let's button up the bottom end. Might get these brakes remachined, calipers cleaned up and whatever. Yeah. Oh, they're back in plate. Cool deal. All right, let's go get these rotors machined. Both of them are machinable. That's good. So we'll go ahead and get some new pads while we're at it. So we'll do brake. Good. 2 new sets of pads. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy that servo right away because I know we're going to need it. I'll buy the servo right away as well. I got the one that's 3-star, and I don't want to put that on this flip. I don't really want to put it on the flip car. We're going to save that for one of our own cars. Indeedly do. Alright, so we got those machined. Let's go get these put back on. So back in plates, those are refurbished. Wheel hubs, refurbished. Alright, we're going to do something with these wheels now. Sweet. Alright, so let's see if these are repairable, hopefully. Crossing our fingers. Got to keep them separated. This one looks like it's in good shape. Maybe the tire not so much, but the rim definitely does. Yep, so both rims are repairable. Good deal. I think that one that was in the front there may not be so repairable. Like this one and that one. Maybe not so much on the front ones. We'll see though. We'll get those pulled here in a second. We'll see what happens. Alright, let's get those back on the rear. Part mount. Sweet, so they're still in the yellow even though we didn't replace the tires. You can still see it's got quite a bit of tread on them. Still enough tread on there. It's not like they're completely bald. So, yeah. Cool. That's that. Now we're going to need to get that muffler. That whole exhaust system. So let's do... Should have it on the list. Yes, we do. Oh, we got one of them in the... Oh, snap. We got one in the warehouse. Snap. Alright, let's go check the warehouse out. Now, it was green, so I don't know if it's in warehouse 4 here. Let's see what we got. It is. Look at that. Sweet. Awesome sauce. Like I said, we do like working on these cars. They're a lot of fun. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Mount that puppy in. Huh? What you talking about, Willis? There it is. Oh, I was on that part, I see. So there's two separate parts, so we need this muffler. So I don't think I have this one in the warehouse. Let me see. Nope. So this front section we already put in. This rear muffler I don't have. So we have to buy that. No problem. There we go. I'm not worried about that other side. We're going to leave that the way it is. So we're going to take this tank out. Probably don't have a fuel pump. Nope. We'll take that out of there. We do have a fuel pump in the warehouse. So that's good. We do need to get 2 new tanks. You're welcome. So we need this tank and that tank. Side saddles. Side saddle tanks. Just like the old step side, no, well, not even step side, but fleet side pickup up trucks. Side saddle tanks. So we do have a fuel pump over here. Let's get that in warehouse 1. Fuel pump. This guy, yes. Cool. And then tanks. You're welcome. Let's go ahead and order some of these. So we got this guy. Cool. Let's get those put in. Yeah, we're definitely gonna fix up those front rims. It'll look like crap in comparison to the back ones now. We'll get it fixed up. We're getting there. So tank B. Get that fuel pump in there right away too. There we go. And let's get this tank in. Sweet. Now. Yeah, let me go ahead, put that back on the list. Just to make sure that's back on the list. Yep. So we need to find more of these to stock up in our warehouse. So I want to get that back on the list. So we got some, take the tires off of here and see how repairable these are. I know, this is going to be a toss-up. So eventually here, I'm also going to get up that prediction. Jack Dow was mentioning we should be able to make about 70,000 to 80,000 on it. I'm thinking like 50,000 we'll make. So we'll see. We'll put a predicky out there as far as once we get it close enough. Nice. All right, let's go ahead and get fixed up what we can. Alrighty then. So rotors were machinable. Yep, alright, cool. We'll get a new set of pads. Get some brake pads. So we need at least 1 wheel bearing. So do brakes, pads, get 2 sets of those. We do need at least 1 wheel bearing. I did not see what the condition the caps were in, so I'll get at least the 1 bearing. There we go. Alright, let's take this rotor off. And get this one. Cool. I don't know how much I like surprises though. Some surprises I don't mind, but I'm gonna keep it a surprise. So we got that rotor done. Get your rotor running. Yep, both those calipers were shot. So we did. Do we have any of these in the warehouse? That's the other question. I don't. So we're gonna have to buy 2 new calipers. They're not that expensive. That's fine. I don't know how those wheel caps, what condition those were in. We'll find out here. So let's put our backing plates back on. Wheel hub refurbish. Brand new machine rotor. Alright, let's deal with these tires. Let's got it up in the air. Let's see how... I'm definitely hoping these are repairable. Definitely hoping. Okay, that one's repairable. Next. This one's going to be iffy. This one's pretty rough shape. As far as visually. Come on, be repairable. Be repairable. Yes. Alright, cool. I'm not worried about the tire. No, I'm not worried about the tire, just the rim. And we'll put those back together. Not replacing the rubber on it. I don't care if the one was red. I just don't care. I'll let the new owner worry about that. My biggest concern was just getting the rims nice and polished up. Look at how shiny that is now. It's like, yeah, and then you put that crappy tire on there. I know what you're thinking. I know what y'all are thinking. I know how your minds work. Cool. Alright, let's get these put back together. Put those back on there. Part mount. Yes, please. Looks a lot cleaner. It's much more presentable, that's for sure. Yeah, we're gonna deal with those radiators here in a second. I'll have to drop her down a little bit so we can get at those. Then we gotta put things like the brake servo and all that stuff in anyway. Alright, so that's... No, I didn't want to do that. Okay, bring her down. She's getting there. She's looking good. So let's do... So we don't have a module. We'll get this pump out of here. We'll get that... Yep, that's fixable. Radiator. That's fixable. We have to get the fan shrouds, though. Okay, let's get those fixed up. Do-do-do-do-do. Cool. So we're going to need to get the fan shroud assemblies for these radiators. Alright. Of course, we need to put a battery. We got a battery in the warehouse. That's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Put that radiator in. Okay, so we're going to need 2 of these and 2 sets of fans. Nothing in the warehouse. So we need 2 of these, 1 for each radiator. And then we also need sets of fans. So radiators. So that's going to be 2 of these and 2 of these. There. That'll allow us to put the fan shrouds together. Cool. Alright, let's put this there. Boop, boop, boop. There's 1. And there's 2. Nice. Okay, so we did get our brake servo already bought. We'll put that in. So we need this bug juice container. Yep. Yes, please. I've mentioned this before, but I find it kind of interesting how all the reservoirs between the power steering, windshield washer, coolant, they're all $100, 100 credits, no matter which one you get. Okay, so we do need a battery. Let's get ourselves a battery. Plenty of those still in the warehouse. Oh yeah. Kind of getting down on our inventory, actually. We had a ton of those batteries, but we use so many, I guess, when we do these, especially when we do these flips. Alright, so that's going in. Now, the only thing we got left is to put some fluids into it. Get all the juices in there. Alright, let's get the juices in the bug juice container. Got our brake fluid, and then, of course, our fluids in the back of the car. We got plenty of oil in there, nice and clean. So now let's see if we can do some tests on her. Why did I know that was going to happen? I think I missed starter. Yeah, I think we missed the starter. I don't think I put a starter on it. I definitely remember not putting a starter on it. Part mount. Starter should be right over here. Yep, we don't have a starter. Nope, so we did not have a starter on it. So let's go see if we got one in the warehouse. Starter V8. Do we have one in here? The winner is... Maybe? Starter V8, we got 1 left. Oh boy, so we have to put that on the list. We gotta stock up back up on our V8 starters here, so let's do... Well, the pump, you're gonna need a module. Got to put that on the front, my bad. Where's that starter at? So we're gonna put that on the list. We gotta find some more of those. Make sure that got on the list. Yep, so we gotta find more starters, servos, and radiator C's. Okay. Get the starter on this bad boy and see if that was all we needed. Let's see if that was all we needed. Okay. Go ahead and get the pump and the module in there. Okay, so pump, yeah, got that refurbished, and a module. Module, I don't have any of those. Go to here. Oop. Yep, no modules. We're out of modules. Fresh out of modules. Nice. A game question, if I can. I found some mod car with the sizes that I cannot put in. When I try to buy a new one, is there a setting in game that allow me to put not realistic values? Yes, there is actually. There is. So if you go into your menu, I gotta remember where this is myself. I know there is one though. So you go to your settings, and it's going to be under the gear and unrealistic wheel sizes. That's the only one that I know of. But as far as other parts, that I can't confirm. So if you want to put unrealistic wheel sizes, you can check that to yes. That's the only one that I know of. So as far as any other parts, as far as I know, there is not. But like if you want to put other things other than that, I guess as far as that's, I don't think that's possible that I know of, even with the quality of life mod. Hopefully that answers your question there, Capitano. That is the only one that I know of anyway. Okay, I think we got everything in this thing now. Let's see if we can do some tests on her. So let's do test. Good deal. So that's all we were missing, really, was the starter. You already know it's not 100% build, because we did use some used parts, but overall the engine was 94%. That should be confirmed in our compression test here. Look at that. So we did use quite a few yellow parts, especially on the valve train. Okay, you all saw the results. It gets as far as from electrical test, scanner, and all that good stuff. We'll see how much horsepower loss we actually get out in this thing. Let's get it on the ground. Alright, we're going to get this over to the dyno, and I'm going to put this up for prediction here, folks. I'm guessing about a 50 horsepower loss, possibly. Let's see. Condition of the car, so the interior still needs to be worked on too. Let me do that real quick. I'm reserving to show how much we've made on this car for now, because I'm going to put another prediction up for that, for how much I feel it's going to be worth. My guess was we only make 50,000. Could be more than that now, because we put a lot into the engine. As far as I had to change the block, all that stuff. So that was my initial thought, that we'll only make about 50,000 off of this. It's probably going to be more than that, but I'm still going to stick with my 50,000 profit. Let's do some interior stuff. So let's do a disassemble. All right, we're going to go ahead and put new seats in there. So we'll put 2 new seats. We'll get this back into the green. And a new steering wheel. Okay. We'll at least make the interior nice and pristine. So let's do interior, assemble. What happened there? What the heck? Never take off doors or hood when open. The game will play. Is that what it is? I've never had that happen to me before. So it's because I took it off when it was open. All right, so that's wild. That's the first time it's ever happened to me. So I wonder if I can reverse this by. Whoops. Hold on. See all the windows. See, I thought this was only a thing with my modded car. So I might have just stumbled onto something, I guess, as far as that's not necessarily just a problem with my modded car. This is what I get, I guess, as far as parts are floating out in midair. Okay, so let me see if I can take it off. Open again. Symbol. Well, crud. So I don't know if there's any way to fix this now. Uh-oh. What I'm really concerned with as far as how do we get that fixed. So if we go, say, to... Let's just go to the junkyard really quick. Let's go to the junkyard really quick and come back and see if that fixes that. Hopefully. There it did. It fixed it. Nice. So we just had to leave the garage and come back. That's definitely a first time for me. there's definitely been a lot of different firsts for us, especially with the random events. I've had at least 2 of them happen on stream. Where we get the random events, where we get the crash car out there, and we got a clip, I guess, as far as for having the pickup truck on top of the gas pump canopy. That was funny. Alright, so we did get that fixed anyway. That's good. Now we can take it to the track. Let's go take it to the track real quick. So drive it. Yep, so we didn't miss anything else. Test track. Let's see how we did in all the other parts. I'm going to get this over to the dyno to see how much horsepower we did lose. I'm thinking, with everything that we've got on this, I'm thinking probably no more than 50 horsepower. That's going to be my number. That's one thing we didn't do yet either. So we got some bushings that are bad. Okay. Okay. So we definitely got some bushings, some outer tie rods, and we got a lot of stuff in the yellow, or the orange. That's probably why she is kind of a little bit erratic. One thing I can do is let's go try it on the alignment. Let's go take this over to test path. We'll get the alignment done. I'm sure she's out of whack. Oh yeah, she's definitely out of whack. There we go. Okay, let's get her over to the dyno, and we're gonna do a prediction on this thing. Dyno. Alright, so before we run the dyno, let's see if it will let me run the dyno. It will. Alright, so before we run this, let me get a prediction up here, I guess, as far as for start prediction, and we're gonna say how much horsepower loss. We're running the test. So my guess is 50. Jack Dawes is 65, or it could be more than 65 of loss anyway. Oh, 630. I'm looking for 630. Oh, wow. So none of us... So that wasn't even close. We only lost 16 horsepower and 14 pound-feet of torque, I guess, as far as with that. So obviously we had some pretty good parts still in this car. Well, none of us were... We were way off. I was even way off. I was thinking 50 horsepower easily, but wasn't even close to that. Not even close to that. So, alright, so anyway, we're done with that. Yeah, I thought for sure that was going to be higher. That's actually not, that's even better than I thought it was going to be, to be honest. Alright, there we go. So I think the last thing we got to do here for prediction is how much do we make on this thing. Now, my original guess was we're going to make much more than 50,000 on this, right? But y'all saw, I guess, as far as what we had to put in it. I'm still sticking with my 50,000. Okay? I know at this point it's probably going to be more than that than we made in profit. Jack Daw had said probably 70 to 80 in profit. Right? So we're going to put this up for prediction now, too. I guess as far as how much we're going to make on this thing before we look at it. So let's do a prediction for this now. And this one should be pretty straightforward. So how much... we make on this this car. Alright, so our predictions are in. My guess was 50,000 profit. So we also got the 2 other options for more than 50,000 profit or less than 50,000 profit. I definitely feel it's going to be more than 50,000. But let's see how everybody voted. Alright, we're getting the final tally. Let's see what the official value is. Car status, here we go. Are we ready? 72,000 was the official profit. So Jack Daw, once again, I guess as far as was pretty right. I guess as far as in between 70 and 80. there's the proofs in the pudding, I guess, as far as now. My initial, like I said, I'll just reiterate, I guess, as far as my initial thought, based on the fact that what we saw at the barn, I figured there wasn't a lot of meat on the bone, so I stuck with that 50,000. We did have to, you know, being able to tear it down and be able to determine how much we had to put into it, especially with that new engine block, obviously made it worth a lot more than what I was thinking in profit. So makes sense. We're still well under 200,000, I guess, as far as, because we didn't do a lot of suspension, change the tires and all that stuff. So that makes sense. This car, if you do fix it up pretty much complete, it can be well worth over 200,000 on this trim, I guess, as far as with the C8. So just factoring all that stuff in there. So the actual outcome of this prediction was more than 50K. So let's see how everybody voted. The car runs. We'll take it over to the drag strip really quick, just for the heck of it. We already took it to the test strip. We know it does run. Now, granted, it doesn't have all the horsepower. We only lost, what was it? What did we say? 16 horsepower? That's actually not bad. Did a lot better than I thought I was going to do. Let's take it over the strip and just have some fun with it before we sell it. How about that? Let's take some runs on the C8 here, though. Well, we get to go against a electric car. Interesting. It's got a little bit of tuning, but I feel like we can probably beat the pants off this thing. I've been wanting to watch someone play this game, but everyone else is different language. Oh, really? Well, I'm glad you found us here, Black Ice. Welcome on in. Yeah, so we just we did a flip. This is a barn find that we did on this C8, which is also the Bolt Reptilia. We do have the drag racing DLC, so I don't know if you have that or not. And feel free to let us know what your experience has been, I guess, as far as in car mechanics in. But yeah, we did this as a flip, and we did a couple predictions, I guess, as far as on how much we were going to make off this and how much horsepower we lost, because we did use some used parts for this flip of this C8. Now we're just bringing it over here to the strip to see if we can, you know, what it can do. After fixing it up, it wasn't really that bad shape. It had all the body panels on it, and it just needed to be repaired. The engine block was shot. We had to buy a brand new block, so it's brand new engine basically. But we'll see what this thing can do. Very slow out of the gate. We did do a wheel alignment to it. All this EV is going to beat us. Look at this crap. How the heck did that EV beat us like that? That was ugly. But we did sleep there a lot. I'm going to do this again. I feel like we slept there too much. We got to get high onto it. Yeah, we definitely slept too much there, that's for sure. We're not going to let this electric car beat us. That's embarrassing. Modding is something I have no clue about. So that's why I tend to wonder. Jack, no, so those like yourself, I just use yourself an example. If there's anybody out there that would be interested in seeing, I will go into it. Maybe not in full detail, but at least to kind of give you an idea of what I've tinkered with, just to get an idea. If there is any interest in that at all, like yourself, anybody that's hanging out here, definitely feel free to let me know in chat, and we can. Otherwise, we'll just continue working on cars. Wow, this thing is really slow out of the gate. Holy crap. This thing's like 0 to 60 in like a quarter mile. But we did get a better reaction time than the last one, but holy crap is this thing slow. This thing is slow. Now, we only lost that that little bit of horsepower as we saw in the dyno. So I guess it would probably need a performance. We found this the same way to be with our own one of these that we have in our garage. We had to put a performance. We're not going to do that on this one, but we did have to put a performance gearbox onto it to make it competitive. So anyway, we just wanted to get an idea of what that thing can do. The fact that the electric car beats us, that's kind of embarrassing, if I do say so myself. So anyway, we're done playing around with this car. We did get... Oh, I missed this mirror over here. Let's get this mirror back on there. So we had that little bit of trouble with the driver's door, so we had to get that fixed. So now everything is on here. Yes. Windows. Okay, cool. Let's check out the status. So everything's in the green. That's all we want. We got interior. We got brand new seats. We know all the parts are not 100% because we didn't do anything else with the suspension. Body's 91%. Not bad. It's a nice presentable car now in comparison to the way it was, I guess, as far as when we bought it at the barn. So let's go ahead and sell it for a little bit of profit. So actually it went up there a little bit because I put that mirror on. It went up like 2,000 credits just by putting that mirror, a passenger mirror on. That's wild. It's just that one little part, but there's so much under, because it was 72 something, I guess, as far as prior, because we did the prediction. So let's go ahead and sell it. 177. Ching! Alright, cool deal. That was fun. Alright, now we got room in our parking lot as well as in our garage. Yep, save that. And then we can go back to the main menu. Yeah. So we already saved it, we're good. We're Gucci. So this, with the quality of life mod, it will allow you. Now this is all keeping in mind that if you do have the quality of life mod, it will have this option here for car editor. Otherwise, you would have to fire up the editor, I guess, as far as in your Steam. But without the quality of life mod, it makes it a little bit not as easy. Let's put it that way. So that's hence why it's called quality of life mod. So we'll go into the car editor. Now there's absolutely no. This is my test car. One of my test cars that I did that initially populates here. This has only been to be proof of concept. Yeah, this is just proof of concept. So right up for the modding tools. Now this is available for those that don't know. Right in the game install, wherever you have the game installed, for your Steam. I'm gonna bring this up here really quick. See if this will work. Got a little bit of Christmas music as far as while we're at it there. Let's turn that off. All right. So yeah, there's still some things I'm working on with the change of scenes. So where this happens to be, wherever you got your game installed, well, granted, it's going to be different for everybody else, right? But find out where your game is installed, and it has this by default, it has this folder in here for modding tools, right? So you want to go into there, and it's going to have a bunch of stuff in here, I guess, as far as to work with. Now, there are sample models in here and things like that. What I'm particularly interested in right now is these PDF guides. These are very ambiguous, for lack of a better way to describe it. So if we go into, for example, the car modding, this is what I've been. Gotta move this down here. Move this tab into a new window and bring it down here. So in this deal, now granted, this is from when the game first came out. This has not been updated, I guess, as far since the game originally came out. So it does go into some detail, I guess, as far as very little, I might add. What they do recommend, I guess, as far as to use Blender, which I've been going back and forth. For anybody that knows me here, I tend to use 3ds Max, 3D Studio Max. So it is possible, from what I've found, I guess, as far as to be able to do your model creation, I guess, as far as in that deal, just as long as you're saving the format of your car model into FBX. And per this deal here, as long as it's at least, I think it's 2015 format for the FBX, it seems to be okay. Because that's how I've been able to get that test model that I showed previously, I guess, as far as into the editor. So I have been able to confirm that. But it goes into detail what absolutely, so all these different parts that are interactable, to include things like your hood, which open and close, and you can take it on and off. They have to be named, I guess, as far as specifically these part names. Otherwise, they will not work as intended. There's also other things like the body. It has to be, so your car model has to have a body, and it has to be named body. Otherwise, it won't load into the editor or the game. So they've definitely made that very abundantly clear what needs to be named what, I guess, as far as if you want it to do function in a certain way. So that's outlined here. It also goes into, like, if you've got parts that are connected, I guess, as far as to other parts, like say you got a hatchback. If your window or your taillights or whatever are connected in there, you have to name those specifically, because as far as so the game knows and understands that those, when you open those particular types of parts, that those parts move with it. So there's a lot of specifics that it goes into. I'm not gonna go into all the details, but you can kind of get a rough idea of how they got these coded. So you have to name it like other A, other B, I guess, as far as to make those understand that those need to go move with the trunk, or the hood, or the door, or whatever the case may be. The other thing that I find really interesting, this is just an example of what your Blender hierarchy needs to look like. So this is taking into consideration, I guess, as far as your tuning parts, or any other variants, they have to be named specifically. So these here, I've already played around with this idea. This funky name here looks like some kind of a weird foreign language. These are what are, I forget which one is which, but one is the speedo and one is the talk. Those are the only two needles or dials that they call them in here that work. They have to be named this. You cannot rename that, otherwise the game just won't show it. So this one's pretty well done. You don't have to specifically have these headers here for tuning parts. What it comes down to is those tuning parts are named specifically. So like if you have a tune part, I guess as far as for your bumper, it has to be front too, as opposed to just being bumper front. So this would be your primary bumper, this would be your tune bumper. So it has to have that too, in order for that to work. It also, the overall model has to have a collider, which means for lack of a better way to put it, it's a collision. You know, a rigid body gets as far, so that you're not just able to walk through it, as far as both in the game as well as in the editor. It goes into a lot of the built-in game materials, and I have gotten some of this to work on a lot of the test models that I've got there. Let me see, I want to make sure I'm not missing any. My chat's kind of being funky. It's more intense than I thought. It is a little bit more. This is why I felt, you know, it can get. It's not like you can just create a model. And I knew this going into it. It's not just like you can create a model in your modding program, throw it in a game, and it's good. There's some very specific things, like, as far as that go with it. So this is why I felt it might be necessary, just to kind of show, you know, if anybody had any doubt at all as far as like what's taking him so long, I guess, as far as to get a car made, it shouldn't be that hard. Well, I'm trying to explain that. There's some very specific things. So these built-in materials, if you want to use any of these materials on your parts, as long as you name the materials that go onto your parts, these specific names, the game will recognize that and apply it. So there's different plastics, there's rubber, there's glass. If you want to use any of these parts here, and this one's showing what they look like based on how it would be in your modeling program of choice, be it either Blender or whatever. But it actually has a list. Yeah, so they even show how they look like, I guess, as far as if you want to apply it to your headlights and your tail lights. So just giving examples of what the material will look like before you apply it. These are already done, but it is explaining if you do make your own custom normal map to apply to your own custom textures, what they need to be, what they need to look like. It's very ambiguous, for lack of a better. It doesn't go in a heck of a lot of detail. But one thing it does make abundantly clear is the specific names for materials and parts are abundant. That's what absolutely needs to happen. So it even goes into parts that are your underbody, as far as what material name you want to have to that, to apply that material to your underbody. It's giving you another example of how plastic or glass is applied to a taillight. Here's all the different material names that you can apply that are built into the game. So if you want to have any of these that are listed up above here applied to your model, any of the parts of your model, you want to name these specifically. You know, as far as body plastic, they have to have that specific name on there for the game to recognize it. That's what you want on there. So those names are in Polish. Is that what it is? I didn't know what language it was. That probably shows that one of the main devs are from Poland. I already worked out some issues. I'm feeling with those infos. I gotcha. I just knew it was a foreign language. I didn't. really take initiative, I guess, as far as to find out what language it was. I just know for those two particular parts I was mentioning, the dial, I guess, as far as the needle for the speedo and the tack, have to be named that. You cannot change the name of that. So yeah, there's all the materials. Also, these are exterior materials. These are interior materials. And again, if you want to use any of these materials that are listed up above in the sample deals, you just apply that specific name to that part, and it will apply it. I haven't had any problem with that at all. So even for the dials, it has a designated name, and this cannot be changed either. So if you want to use that material there for the tachometer and the speedo, you use that material name. So that's just to kind of integrate that all. This shows what the collider generally needs to look like for your model. And it is mandatory, so if you don't have the collider, I've found this out just by testing things out there. If you don't have a collider in your model hierarchy, it won't even load the car at all. It doesn't necessarily crash, but it'll also go into how you set up your Unity. I'm not going to go into that today, I guess, as far as how that goes. I will say this, as far as because Unity's at a higher, because this is back from 2021, right? It's showing you the information of how you would apply it back in 21, so 3 years ago. The fact that it's on a higher level of Unity, it is a little bit different than what they explain in here, how to get the proper template applied to your model as far as Unity is concerned prior to export. So it is a little bit different there, but like I said, I don't want to go into all the details into that right now. Just be aware that if you do take the approach to this, it's not going to be the same as what's in this PDF. So you're going to have to know a little bit about Unity in order for to know what steps you need to take. You mod it, and please, can I have one of your done? It's way over my well, and that's kind of the reason why I guess I wanted to show this, just to kind of for no other reason, for people to understand if you did want to try it yourself, or just to understand the steps that I've had to go through, I guess, as far as to the struggles and the pitfalls that I've had. So one of the biggest things that I did have to try and figure out was how to get the proper template applied to the model, so that when I export it, it would export properly into the CMS format, so that the game could translate it. So that was a little bit different. So that was my one biggest hurdle, I guess, as far as when it came to Unity itself. As far as using the plugin that's still provided with the game, that works no problem. Being able to get that into Unity itself, that plugin that is available, let's go back here. So the plugin that's available, you remember exactly where it is, this one right here. When you apply this package into Unity, this still works. So irregardless if it's a newer version of Unity that you apply it to, it will still apply, I guess, as far as to that. I can confirm that 100%. So there's been no problem in that regard, I guess, as far as getting that to work. So continuing through, it's going just how to get the plugin into Unity. There was a little bit difference from what I dealt with, I guess, as far as getting this in here. I can't remember exactly what it was right now. It does go into some detail of what your model prior to export out of your modeling program needs to be in order for it to be recognized by Unity. So it definitely has that highlighted here. That was one of my true problems that I went in there when I tried to export the car. It was like all the parts were just exploded everywhere when I brought it into the editor. So I did have to take heed, I guess, as far as to this warning here. It goes into a little bit of suggestions of what you want to do. As far as in Unity itself, I guess, as far as to have it named, something that you recognize in Unity as far as being your car model. So if you have more than one model that you're working on, say for example, you might want to name it specifically in Unity so you know which one that you're working with in Unity, because you can have more than one car model in Unity at a time. Again, I don't want to go through all the Unity stuff right now. Maybe later if there's more interest with it, but Some of these settings here are still pretty legitimate. So it gives you what the initial settings need to be on the model in Unity, but prior to export. Most of these are still accurate and legitimate. So once you populate this in here, and you'll see this all in here once you get your model in here prior to export. You will see all of this if you do try it. Materials tab, it's just showing the details in Unity, I guess, as far as what those will look like. Now this will go into detail, I guess, as far as with, well, I say detail, but it'll give you the rundown, I guess, as far as how to get the car model once you got all that set, how to get the car into CMS format so the game can actually use it. This is using that plugin that we put in previously that was further up. And what should happen if you got everything set right, it'll spit out a CMS car with whatever you've got your folder name here in Unity. So if you name it My Car or whatever, it'll spit out My Car CMS. Now to get it to actually show up in the game and or the editor goes into that. It tells you where it saves that file. And it tells you where to get the configs. I guess as far as this is what this is the approach that I took. I took for my test cars. I take one that's similar or in comparison, to an in-game car, and I use that as my base for my my own model, right? And then you can adjust those configs from there. This is so interesting. Yeah. So. I'm skimming over this very quickly because I know I don't want to drag it out. I just want to give a quick rundown and bullet point, I guess, as far as of what is involved with it. There's a lot to it that has to be, all your T's got to be crossed and your I's got to be dotted for it to work properly. That's the main thing I guess I wanted to show here. But it does go into detail. A lot of this information is legit as far as where these files are located. So where you need to acquire config files for your body and your car config. So it kind of gives you a rough idea of where those are at. That's in the same location of where we got the modding tools, which is over here. So if you go into our data, like it says, into our streaming assets, you will find any one of these cars. These are all the default cars that are in here. Now, granted, I have my my test car in here too. This is all directly in the game directory as far as where the game is installed. So I should have my test car in here. I haven't seen that test car come up in game, I guess, as far as late now when I think of it. But it does have the DLC cars and all that stuff too. Now, there are body configs and config files in here. If you want to mess with this, I will suggest this. If you're going to play around with any of these files at all for yourself that are directly in the game install, make a copy of this. Don't try to edit the default. Save yourself some headache, I guess, as far as not messing up, I guess, as far as the original car. So it does give you the ability in here, I guess, as far as it's not locked down at all. If you do have the DLC for these different cars, like we'd have for the Pagani and the Mercedes and so on, make a copy of that and call it something besides what it is by default. Because it doesn't matter what you name the folder in this assets folder for the cars. It will load it up in the game. This as long as all the configuration for it is done properly. It will load it into the game if everything has been done previous to this step properly. So my test car should be in here. Maybe I don't have it in here. You know what? I might have put that on my gaming PC. But I did put that originally, I guess, as far as in here as a test car. And that's all I did was just dump that directly into this. I would like to retro engineering some cars for the game into Unity so I can put the UV. See, that stuff there, Capitano, I haven't been able to figure that out. So there's no way to basically, I don't know how some of these other people are doing it. I have not been able to reverse engineer, I guess, as far as the CMS file to maintain, to acquire, I guess, as far as the original model of the car. I'm sure there probably is a way to do that. I guess I tend to respect, I guess, as far as the original creator and not take that approach, I guess, as far as to backwards engineer, I guess, as far as the CMS file to get to the original model. I don't know how you would go about that, honestly, Capitano. I'm not saying there isn't a way to go about that, but just be aware that the only way you can get that original model would be in the CMS file. And for me, I have not found out a way, I guess, as far as to reverse engineer that to get that original model and be able to remodel it. The only thing that you can do, I guess, as far as with no problem, and again, I would suggest, I guess, as far as like if I wanted to take this Porsche 964 and make a separate configuration for it, you know, and mess around with the config file, make a separate folder. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just saying if I did, I would make a copy of that folder, name it something else that's either DLC or default. That way, just mess with that file and not the original. That's 100% what I would suggest there. Save yourself a headache. But anyway, that's where you would put all your cars to test it out there. Now, as far as getting it, if you wanted to release it to Steam Workshop, there's a whole other process for that they explain in this PDF. So yeah, this is just going into more explanation of the configuration files, you know, where you can get it. And so this one's showing the Bolt Atlanta as far as the information that's in that, and it gives you a little bit of breakdown as far as the body config. This one will help the game understand that you do have mirrors that are attached to doors, and those move together, or something else needs to be removed before something else. That's where the body config comes in. So it explains a lot of that. Yep, so that's where it explains that. So if it's going to be left or right bumper, and if you've got, there's going to be a hierarchy to what needs to be removed before that, it goes into that detail. This is where I had to learn, honestly, besides any YouTube tutorials, of how to navigate yourself in the editor. What it doesn't show in here is you got to hold Alt, the Alt key, I guess, as far as to move around. So it says right mouse here. That I found is incorrect. So you have to use your Alt key and your mouse and your WASD to move around. That's the way it's worked for me, at least, anyway. This just gives some of the rundown of how some of the features work. We'll get into the edit here in a second, just to kind of understand how the editor works and what you should touch and what you shouldn't. But yeah, we'll give you a rundown. The main thing that I took from this part is how to navigate around inside of the editor. So that's the only thing I really took into consideration there. So yeah, it goes in a little bit more detail as far as a lot of this you don't need to mess with, because this is all going to be based on how you design the model of the car, right? So when you bring it into the game, how it presents itself in the editor, if you've done it right, I guess, as far as you don't need to mess with any of this, a lot of this stuff that they're explaining in here. But it does explain some of it in here if you do need to, if you find it necessary to want to tinker with it. So yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, some of this stuff I don't even mess with, like the logic, as far as the positioning of the model in the editor. Again, it comes down to how you design it and how you center it prior to export out of your modeling program and from Unity itself. If you've done all that correctly, you don't even need to mess with any of this stuff, from what I've come to find. The other thing I have not figured out, and I've been using a lot of my test cars, are just the in-game speculars and normals. You know, how it makes the car dirty and or rusty. I've been using just the default. I have not gotten into, I guess, as far as how to create my own custom rust mask and dirty masks. You know, as far as the different channels. A little bit of Christmas lights. Nice. The next I challenge you about a car, just no, I wouldn't do that, Jack Dog. I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. But you know, just to kind of give you an idea, though, of what is involved with this. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of this I have a lot of knowledge in. But as far as divulging into it yet, it's like I kind of go in baby steps, you know, as far as like just get the model working the way it needs to be, I guess, as far as in the editor in the game, and then go from there. They do suggest in here to use such things like Substance Painter, which I don't have. That is a subscription-based application, which can get pretty pricey, I guess, as far as if you really want to get into this. But as it stands right now, the only thing I use is paint.net for my painting. So anything that I do need to paint for textures, I use that. But I don't use any of this other stuff. There are just suggestions in here, I guess, as far as of what how to do that. So you do need to have some knowledge, I guess, as far as, and they do explain it here a little bit, that it has a red, green, and blue layers for your for the rust mask, and that's pretty common. So like, they can also be called specular mats. They do have the same type of layers, and each layer does something different as far as how it applies things, and it explains that a little bit in here. Not in much detail, but at least a little bit. So this is the blue channel is the dirty layer. So whatever parts that you want to get on the car are dirty, that's how you apply that. See, it doesn't really go into detail of how you get this layout of your body panels, like as far as onto the map. It doesn't explain any of that. You have to have knowledge of that, which I do have some. So that's something else I have to develop. Once I get the car model, I guess, as far as figured out to work the way it should. That'll be one of the last steps. So it goes into here and how you create skins. So there's, depending on which modeling program that you use, like for Blender or even 3ds Max, you can acquire, I guess, as far as your UV map for the template of your car in different ways. They kind of show here very loosely, I guess, as far as to use Substance Painter, and it will create the UV parts, for example. There's more than one way to get to that. That result, but very minimal information, I guess, as far as how you get a livery paint job, I guess, as far as applied to your model. I haven't even got to that point. Again, baby steps, I guess, as far as to get it from one point to the other. Here's where it talks about the dials, also the speedo and the top. I have not been able to get these to work properly on the models that I've tested. Now, I've got it placed on my model as far as in the modeling program and into Unity properly, as far as I can tell. But once I go into the editor or the game, they don't seem to place it, I guess, as far as properly. So I don't know if that's a configuration file issue or what the deal is. The rust map could help me to figure out where the parts are in the actual empty library. Yeah, so going back here, Capitano, to any car that you might be playing around with, just pick anyone. I'll use the this car, for example. If it has one in here for rust maps, you can figure that out, I guess, as far as if you want it to get dirty differently, but also the libraries. If it has libraries for it, if you want to create a custom library, you at least have the idea. Let's see if we can open this here. You have the idea of where the placement of certain parts are. So if you want to create your own library, you have that option without even having a UV map. Right? So if you want to do that, again, it comes down to what you'd want to do is create a copy of that car instead of messing with the default stuff. So even if it is just a custom library, I would still take the approach, I guess, as far as to create a separate folder for the car and have that custom library in there, right? I mean, it's not wrong, I guess, as far as in a way, if you want to create another library within this folder. What I would absolutely make sure that you do, because I've tried to do this myself with some default cars, even DLC ones in this case, name your libraries, I guess, as far as in succession here. So this one has up to library 7. So if you want to create your own custom one without creating a separate car folder, make sure you name those in succession, I guess, as far as what's already in there. I mean, that seems pretty logical, but some people tend to mess that up there. So I'm just putting that information out there just to understand how that works. I have done some custom libraries, like for the Daytona, which is the Bolt Tempest, I think it's called. So yeah, I think it's the Bolt. Oh, what is that Daytona called now? What looks like the Daytona with the wing on it? I forget which one it is exactly. But it's one of these here. And I applied, I guess, as far as a custom library for the Daytona, put the Daytona badging onto the back wing and such. So you can do that. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's get back into here. So yeah, the dials, they do have to be specifically named, which I've done that. I have not gotten those to work there. Now, as far as the HUD, this is in the config file somewhere, and they explain this a little bit. So yeah, they do have to be named this for the TOC and the speedo, respectively. So in the config file, it does give you, I don't know, I probably have to mess with some of this stuff here as far as to get it to work in the proper position that I need it. So, yeah, there's probably some things I need to mess with in here. So I'm just thinking out loud when I say this, as far as the dial. So it will spit a lot of this information out in your config file, I guess, as far as for the dials. There's a section in the config file for your car model for that. And basically what it's showing you here, there's different dial names that you can use. And this will also coincide for what it shows on the HUD in comparison to what's on your dash. So it goes into a little bit of detail, I guess, as far as about that. This is how it goes into a little bit of explanation of how you want to set that dial on your model prior to export. So it does show you it has to be that name and to have the proper rotation on it. The approach that I've taken is taking a dial from one of the example cars, because they do have the example cars. Let's go back here for a second. They do have the example cars in here. And they do, just about every one of these they will have, I would have to open it in Blender and I don't want to go into that. But in these models here, as far as it does have an example of those dials already placed on there, you can export those out of there and put them in your own model. That's the approach that I've taken. I don't know if by doing it that way that it screwed that up there. I still need to look into that. Because what they're saying in here is whatever custom dial that you apply to your model, you just have to make sure it's named that specific name, and also that it has the proper rotation so that the game can understand how it needs to function. So I could not do it. I have a lot of admiration for you. It's well beyond me. I mean, to each their own there, Jack, though. I mean, this information is available for anybody to use. The fact that I've taken the approach and the ambition, I guess, as far as, you know, to go through the motions to get something in there. If you have admiration for that, I don't consider myself to be a god or anything like that at all. I'm still wet behind the ears, I guess, as far as when it comes to this whole process, because there's still a lot of things I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Lack of UV maps for the original cars were puzzling me. I made the A-Team van, but the library I have, not sure if it's original or modded, is not really series accurate, so I would probably remake it. Oh, I got you. So I don't know if there would be a way, if there would be a way to really do anything about the original UV mapping of the model without having the model itself to be able to. Now, if somewhere out there, if they have that original UV map going back to the wiring, this UV wiring, if this is out there somewhere, maybe you could reconfigure that. But you would still probably have to put your hands on the physical model to redo that mapping. So without having that raw model, I guess, as far as for that A-Team, that van, there's really nothing you can do about it. You got what you got, I guess, as far as the libraries that are in those folders. So you can't just take, for example, we'll go back this way. You can't necessarily just take, I mean, you can try it, I'm sure you probably have. Go back into the cars. So like, say for example, if you wanted to take the Ferrari, and it's got these libraries in here, you would not really be able to take these mappings here and say, well, I want this over here. You're still going to have the original mapping onto the, you know, it's not going to move, it's not going to redo that UV mapping, and I'm sure you probably understand that, because you might have tried that yourself. Some people would probably take that approach to be like, well, I want this to be in a different area, right? But without having that physical model to be able to redo the UV mapping, you got what you got, I guess, as far as with this layout. That's the only downside, I guess, as far as to that. So if you're trying to adjust, I guess, as far as what's available on that A-Team van, that's the only way you could do it. Take the praise, it worth it. I mean, again, to each its own. I don't consider like I said, this information is all out there for anybody to use it. It's not like, you know, I'm creating this stuff, you know, I'm backdooring this and all this, I guess, as far as to make it work. This has all been made available, I guess, as far as through this PDF by the original developers, by Playway. I wish they would have had a little bit more explanation for certain parts. You know, like if you run into this issue, make sure you do this and so on. You know, things like that. But they don't. That's the thing that kind of bugs me about the information that they do provide. So yeah, this is just going into a little bit more detail about the TOC and the Speedo. So yeah, you can have... So depending on what you put on the texture, I guess as far as for your dash, you can have that rotate, I guess, as far as a certain amount of degrees based on how high your speedo is. So this one's at 80, this one's at 220. You need to have a particular amount of rotation, and it's just explaining that roughly, I guess, as far as in this section. Okay, I never really paid attention to this. So a lot of the colors that we've come to understand, I guess, as far as now this is outside of the game. So what we do understand when we go to the paint shop in the game itself, it'll give us a paint code, I guess, as far as by RGB. When we're trying to apply a color to our model, I guess, as far as prior to getting it into the game, they go into hex, as far as what the different values are for that. So that goes for, so this is going into a little bit of explanation. So what kind of hexadecimal value you would have to put to get a certain color applied to, say, like your rims and things like that. License plate, these are what's in there by default, which is pretty much everything. It's got a lot of options in there, and we've seen that in the game. So our parts text, this is basically if you're using modded parts that are applied to your car. Obviously, because if you're creating a mod car, any parts that you apply that are in addition to what's on there by default, that would fall under that. So we already know this in the game, I guess, as far as where those parts are going to be. They're not going to be intermixed, I guess, as far as with the parts that are already in the game, the default parts anyway. But you have the balls to show it. I mean, I'm just trying to get it at this point here. I'm just trying to get have people understand that there's a little bit of knowledge involved. There's a lot involved, I guess, as far as with doing it. It's not like I said, you just find a car that you find on, you know, anywhere, throw it into the game, and it's all done. It's like, no. It's not how it works. So if anything, it's a little bit of insight, I guess, as far as to understand what goes into this. So if anything, too, it might give you a little bit more appreciation for these car models that we see on the internet, be it on the Steam Workshop or what have you, what these creators have to go through, I guess, as far as to get that car to look as good as it does. So we've got at least the two cars that we've been using religiously in the 2012 Camaro and the C1 Corvette, both done by the same creator, be it Smokey. He's had to go through the same process, I guess, as far as to get that car looking as good as it does. So that's where I find, I guess, as far as the higher appreciation for what goes into creating these mods. These take a lot of time. This is just going into additional parts that you can put on the car and how they need to be named. Specifically so that the game does understand that it's not a primary part. Okay, final look. So this is what your folder would look like, I guess, as far as once it's done. Now it has this upload config. That's if you do decide, I guess, as far as to put your mod car, I guess, as far as up on the Steam Workshop. So this is what this is all about. So, or you wouldn't have this, for example, I guess, as far as if you didn't decide, I guess, as far as to put this up on the Steam Workshop. As far as the upload config, which I think it goes into a little bit there too, I guess, as far as in the editor, to upload it to the Steam Workshop. So it does have a workshop uploader, and that's basically just a quick rundown of that PDF that's 100% available within your modding tools of the game install. All the way back to the top here. So I'm going to put it right back here. So this is where I started from. It does give you some what modeling programs are common. So you can use any version of Blender. I'm currently using on when I do export it out, the FBX, I guess, as far as, so what this is the way I do it. I have to piggyback it. I do all my work in 3D Studio Max as far as all the modeling there, because I can't stand using Blender, because maybe I'm just old school, I don't know. Some of you do know me, I guess, as far as for that. But also, what I'll do is I'll export an FBX from 3D Studio Max, import that FBX file into Blender 3, and then I get this result, I guess, as far as you get the car into there. Make sure my hierarchy, I guess, as far as is the way they suggest, I guess, as far as for the game to understand it prior to export. I'll export it, I guess, as far as FBX, I guess, as far as from Blender, so that when I put it into Unity, it has everything set up as I did in Blender. So I've tried to do FBX from 3D Studio Max, you know, from FBX right to Unity. I have all kinds of problems. So I don't know why that is, because it does have Autodesk 3D Studio Max, I guess, as far as listed here. But the fact that I have, I can confirm, I guess, as far as at least for me, I don't know if it's the version of Max that I'm using or what the deal is, but my version of Max, when I try to put it in FBX format, from there, I get all kinds of problems when I try to import that FBX file into Unity. The thing I've been discussing on here is it does not explain to you in this write-up here by the developer as far as what your FBX format needs to be in. I guess as far as, I was just looking through here really quick, I guess, as far as to see it all. I had to find that in a different location besides this write-up. We're going to be getting into the editor here in a second. But anyway, I was going to try and show, I guess, as far as in Blender, bringing in your FBX file, there's an option, you know, bring up a dialog as far as you have to make sure a certain setting is set on that. So maybe we'll go into that later, I guess, as far as with that, but I figured, so let's get back over to the editor real quick. Move this over. Alright, getting back into the editor. Now that we got that all explained in the little bit of a write-up there. So like I was saying before, in order to move around in this thing... Oh, now you want to work, you piece of crap. So it is, the right mouse click is working to be able to rotate, but you can use your WASD. See, before, and it might have been my buttons were messed up there, so now it's making a liar out of me. So just as I was explaining in the PDF write-up, you can use the right mouse. You can move around like this, and then to spin around the car, you hold your anything. So you can't just use WASD by itself. You have to use a right click, and then it'll allow you to use WASD and so on, just like that. So in an effort to get so far as to move around your car. Now, granted, this is a very primitive model. This was only to prove concept, I guess, as far as what is possible. So I was playing around with different parts here. So it does not, in the editor, let you mess with the car model itself, right? All of that is done, I guess, as far as in your modeling program prior to getting it to this point. So the only thing that the editor will let you do is apply your tires and the other parts that go on the model, right? So things like your seats and things like that, you can do that, I guess, as far as through all the different parts here. So your suspension parts, interior and things like that, those can all be set within the editor. This is everything in addition, above and beyond, I guess, as far as the car model itself. So to get the car model, that's why I made this very primitive in this design. I just wanted proof of concept, I guess, as far as how this would work. So this does not have any opening hood or anything like that to it. But what I can do is take the body off of it. So all of this stuff here that is showing, you know, as far as the engine, this is all applied in the editor. So that's how you're able to get these positionings, I guess, as far as in your config file. That's how that'll get produced as far as in the editor. So right now, as we're in the left seat here, so since we're in the interior here, I'm going to go to engine. See, and right now it's showing that it does have the V8 LS engine, the LS3 engine applied to this, and that's exactly what's here. Now you can put your swap options here. Now you need to know all the different names. And the way I originally did it for engine swaps was to go through the list here manually. I have taken the initiative, I guess, as far as to write all these down in a text document, just to kind of know which ones I can use for different car models. Now, part of the reason, I might have already explained this previously, so it might be a redundancy. Part of the reason why you can't put every single type of engine into any one car model really comes down to there's only one setting that you can have for your engine, and by that, the coordinates for it, right? You cannot alter this, I guess, as far as from one engine to another, I guess, as far as in any one singular car model. So this is why you can only have certain car swaps for any particular model. So, for example, there's no way, I guess, as far as to have separate positionings for engines and other parts, I guess, as far as in any one car model. This is why you have some cars that only have the turbocharged engine in it, and you can't have all the supercharged engine, right? Because those positions, I guess, as far as are different from one engine to the other. So that's one thing I've definitely come into understanding, I guess, as far as why that is. So you see how it's got the LS engine into this. If we wanted to say put a turbocharged engine into this, which you can in the editor, but you'll see how the positioning gets messed up. So let's say, for example, we wanted to put the turbocharged engine, which it's going to be, let's see if I can find it. Well, let's see if we can put the Coyote in it. So the Coyote might be fine. And this is how you can look at it to see if everything lines up right. So everything lines up right. So we can actually have, on this test car, we can have a Coyote put into it. You can see all this stuff lines up. But as we put other engines in here, let's try to put, say, where's that turbocharged? Let's put the turbocharged engine in there. See, this one's not going to line up because of the way the turbos are. And again, it comes down to this coordinate here for the engine. You cannot make a separate one, I guess, as far as for any one particular type of car. So if we wanted to have a turbocharged version of this test car, we'd have to create a separate car folder with that configuration for this particular engine, as well as all the exhaust and all that, because you only have the one position for that engine. So just to give more clarity on this, you can see how the exhaust for this doesn't line up with what we got here. So if you want to be able to have all these particular swaps on there with this type of setup for the exhaust, you'd have to make sure that the engines that you're applying to it will line up with that, because you can't make a separate coordinate for that in any one singular car. So that's part of the explanation that I understood, I guess, as far as why we can't have swaps, I guess, as far as for turbo engines as opposed to all the other ones. So let's go ahead and put the LS back in here. Can't remember which one it is now. This one right here. This is what we had in here by default. So this is what will show up. This one that's in this field here. That's the engine that will show up on this test car, I guess, as far as by default. But it will allow all these other swaps. So we can scroll through that actually. So all these other swaps. So if we wanted to on this test car, we could add the Coyote, which it already does. So I must have saved that at some point there to add. So I think when I added the Ford DLC, it automatically added this to the config. I must have saved that, I guess, as far as after that DLC, because it does have the option to put the Coyote in here as a swap. So anyway, that's all that works. So yeah, if nothing else, what you take from what can be done in the editor is you cannot do anything to the body parts of the car. Now, bonus parts, yes, absolutely. Which I haven't done anything on this this test car, but it's mostly all of the other parts that you can take off besides the body, right? So engine, air filter, your coolant reservoirs, all that type of stuff, to include your tires. So speaking of tires, we can go into wheels and we can tell it which rims we want as far as what tires that we want on it by default. We can do that. That's all done in here. And this will, like I said, once you apply all these values and get it positioned in the editor in this fashion, when you save the car, it will populate that, I guess, as far as in the config file for the car that you're working on. In this case, we're on our test car. See if I can get this repositioned here. It's a little bit wonky sometimes getting moving around in this thing. So if we wanted to move, say, let me put this on engine. Nope. Other. I can't remember where the radiator is. So this is one thing too that I've found out, I guess, as far as when you click on certain parts, it's not going to populate you, I guess, as far as into that category that you need to be in there to modify it in that regard. So that was one thing that took me a bit, I guess, as far as to figure out what was going on. So just because you select a part in here, you can move it around for sure. There is no way to put it back though either. So there's no Control Z, Control Z to be able to put it back. So you got to be careful as far as how you're moving stuff around in the editor. What I always like to try to do is, even though I got it highlighted here, make sure I get into the proper category. So it's telling me up here, I guess, as far as it's on config 2, it usually tells you, I guess, as far as where to find that, which category. Shoot, I wonder why it's not. So let's go into parts here. There should be a radiator through here. So typically a lot of these parts, like the radiator and stuff, are going to be under parts. And if we go down here, we should be able to find radiator. There's ECU, air intake, exhaust, downpipes, cooling. So this one right here. Oh yeah, there it is right there. My bad. I'm still missing. So it says cooling 2. So you're looking for the part that we got selected here named cooling 2. And there it is right there. So if we want to apply a different type of radiator, you know, for the default setup of this car, we can do that. Just to kind of give you an idea. So if we wanted to say put this one on there. No, I wanted to do, that's not the one. I wanted to do, wait, why did I not change that? Making me look bad. Did it, if we want to put this style in there instead, you can see how that looks. So you can play around with that. So you just kind of play around, I guess, as far as with that in there. So I don't know what the difference is between cooling 1 and 2. Now that I think of it, I gotta look at that one again. Cooling 1 and 2 are just different fans. Oh, is that what it is? Kind of figured there. So there's probably a reason. So this one's got the 1 fan, and then cooling 2 probably has 2. I think that's why I went with 2. Yep. So this one has the 2 fans. That's what it is. So you can see that. And into here. So the cooling 2 has the 2 fans. Cooling 1 has just the 1 fan. Like that. Now, as we know inside the game, I guess, as far as we have the option, you know, there's the whole thing as far as it has the radiator and the fan shroud is separate. The game already configures that. Once you set it up in here and you select that particular part, it already knows that. So you don't have to mess anything further with that, which is kind of nice. So it's not like, for example, that you have to mess with the placement of the fan shroud onto the radiator. It's already together. The game already understands that. You don't have to mess with it any further, which is kind of nice in that regard. So that's just to give you an idea of how certain parts, I guess, as far as to get into. Now I can load up, I guess, as far as the hot rod 69 Camaro. Let me do that real quick. I'm not going to save this one. I just wanted to show that as an example. Let's bring up our mod. Oops, gonna go here. In the wrong one. So if you got separate variations, I guess, as far as for any test car in here, it'll show up in this this menu, which we don't. We only have the 1 config, so that's all it's going to show. But let's bring up the 69 Camaro. What's also nice with this, when you bring a lot of these up there, for those that haven't tinkered with the car editor, it'll tell you if it's a DLC. If it's not DLC or a mod, if it's default, it won't have anything at the far right. So that's kind of nice. So this 69 RS, we'll bring that one up. So what it brings up by default is the standard configuration, right? So if you have any other configurations, like we made this is our own that we created for this car. This is our drag version of that car. Okay, let's see if I can get this lined up. And one of the things that really bugged me about this one, and I've mentioned this before on stream, I want to create a custom exhaust, you know, like an X pipe for this deal, so that it's not hanging so low below the frame. Let's see if I can get it down here. See how low this hangs here? So this is the shortest downpipe I can get for this configuration, I guess, as far as, and this is a result. So I would love to be able to create, and this is still in, you know, work in progress, a custom exhaust to be able to apply to this that the game will recognize. We've seen this possible, I guess, as far as with the C1 Corvette, you know, having that part. Now, so because it's outside the realm of the parts that are already available in the game, when you create the part for it, you have to use something else besides an exhaust component so that the game still recognizes that it's still a part. But I think if I remember right, I think on the C1, it's actually named as a body part instead of a part like you would normally, I guess, as far as on this. So I've taken the approach to use just the in-game parts, I guess, as far as to get this configuration, and I don't like it. It hangs way too low and it looks like crap, but that's what we were able to come up with. That's the only one position of all engines, right? So Capitano was obviously playing around with that a little bit as far as the engine explanation. Some people may not have known about that, so that's the only reason why I mentioned. So we can also use Q and E to move up and down, as well as using the right mouse button. I'm surprised that's even working for me, because normally I've been having to use Alt. I don't know if maybe I changed that somewhere. I don't remember. Won't harp on that one. So what we'll do now is open up the C1 Corvette. That's also going to be a mod. Okay, so that's at the top of the list there. Should show as a mod in the list here. To include that 2000, yeah, here's the 2 by Smokey. So we got the 2012 Corvette and the C1 Corvette right here. Load that one up. Now, the way we see this one, as far as the exhaust, I think it shows it in here as a body part, if I remember right. Let's see if I can select that. So if we look through here, for example, it will not have so it does have that exhaust, fuel tank. So that is just to get it to the rear as far as out here, but I think this part here coming out the bumper, that is a body part, if I remember right. So that's going to be in the body config as opposed to, and again, it comes down to how you design your car model. So we cannot touch that, I guess, as far as in the editor, as far as these exhausts coming out the bumper, because that's part of the body, right? As opposed to being car parts, I guess, as far as like the rest of it. So let's go ahead and turn off the car body. So everything leading up to, see here, see the way Smokey did this. So he's got these pipes right here going into that's all the normal car parts, I guess, as far as that are available in the game, right? So these are not custom, but everything from behind the rear wheels going out to the rear bumper, that's all a body part. Going from here to the rear bumper. So that's the way Smokey's done this, I guess, as far as to trick the game into understanding. It's like, look, this is still a part, but he's made it look like, I guess, as far as the exhaust, right? So these are some of the things I've taken into consideration to how we design our own cars, I guess, as far as, so that's what I would like to do with the X-Pipe design, I guess, as far as for the Hot Rod Mod Camaro, 69 Camaro. So instead of using the car parts, we'll use it as a body part. We'd have to name it something like, I don't know what he's got this rear exhaust on this C1 named, but he's named it so that it's its own body part that he applies to the car, right? As like doors and things like that, for example. So that's what I need to figure out, I guess, as far as with the 69 Camaro, to be able to apply a body part that is in the appearance of an X-pipe exhaust, I guess, as far as for that bottom, so I can tuck it in more. So I wouldn't use any of these parts that are in the game by default, so I can get it nice and tucked under the frame. So that was very interesting to find out that what Smokey did, I guess, as far as like with the C1. Very well done. So this one's the standard C1 by default. We can also load in all the different trims of that to include the EV. So this is the electric. We have not made one of these ourselves. I don't know, maybe at some point we might, but we haven't done it yet. So let's hide the body on this one. So you can see how well Smokey did this one as far as for the EV. Very nicely done how he's got this here, I guess, as far as it turned out really cool. Yeah, even to put the modules underneath the car, just like all the other EVs. Battery in the back, as far as in the trunk. I mean, you can see the hologram of the body itself, I guess, as far as to give you an idea of how this looks here. But even to redo the rear end, I guess, as far as to make it more modern, I guess, as far as opposed to just the old school rear end. You know, maybe at some point we might have to make one of these, just for giggles. So we got the supercharge, which I don't care for as much. I never liked this one. I've said it before. I just don't like that sticking out of the hood like that. The way these body lines in is, it just kind of dirties it a little bit, in my opinion. I don't care for that. But it is there. I can appreciate it in respect, I guess, as far as him taking the initiative to do that. Of course, we got our fuelie. So the only way you can open up the different panels, you know, the doors and stuff like that, is to explode the car. And we can do that like so. So pretty self-explanatory, I guess, as far as on that. You see the exploded opens up anything that is openable, as far as doors, hoods, and stuff like that. But this fuelie comes from, let me bring that up here as far as the engine. This requires DLC, which I think is the Mercedes DLC. This is the Mercedes engine as far as the M117. So you would have to, he does have it in the requirement, I guess, as far as to be able to do anything with this fuelie version of it, you have to have that DLC. And you can see it right there. And this one does not have any engine swaps. The only engine that will be allowed in this fuelie is that engine. So that's a very specific trim on this version of the car. This is just a nicely well done model. I mean, he's got a lot of detail in this thing. There are some things that I have noticed with DUV mapping of it, you know, but a lot of it is not 100% visible, so it doesn't really matter. But even the way, for example, too, that Smokey did this interior, being able to take the whole interior, gut the whole thing out, that's all part of the body. He's got that, I think it's originally designed as, I think, as a front clamshell. So instead of having it as a hood, right, we have all these different names, I guess, as far as that we can apply to those specific names that we saw in the write-up. What Smokey's done, I guess, as far as with this one here, is to use a lot of those part names, the body part names that aren't used on it, to be able to apply it to other body parts like the interior. So he calls this interior, I think, a front clamshell, because that's not being used by anything else, and that allows the ability to take the interior completely out. So that's definitely some things that I've taken into account of what we can do with our own modded cars. But yeah, so this is a nice example of how you can use modded, you know, stuff that's DLC, and be able to apply that to your own mod. This is a really good example of that, I guess, as far as how Smokey's got this one done. So kudos to Smokey as far as the design of these. Very well done model. I just can't say enough of that. So I think I've shown pretty much all that I care to want to show, I guess, as far as in this deal, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with this thing. And like I was saying before, I don't touch, I know it gives the write-up in the PDF for a lot of this type of stuff. If you design the model the way it needs to be, I guess, as far as when it comes to positioning of stuff, you don't need to mess with a lot of this stuff as far as the tuning. I mean, you can go ahead and do that if you want, but there's really no need to. If you want to do tune parts, obviously you can set those up in here too. So if you got different types of doors, tune parts, I guess, as far as to fly there, that's how those work. I haven't even gotten into that far just yet. I'm sure I probably will at some point once we do get just the basics of how the car models work, I guess, as far as for sure. That part there, we can probably look in the game to see what he's got that name for the bumpers or the exhaust pipes coming out. I know for sure it is a body part, and it's not anything that you can apply in the editor. So it's all on how you set up your model prior to export out of Unity into into CMS. So that much I do know. But yeah, getting parts like that created, I guess, as far as and utilizing some of the part names that we aren't using on the car model. Yeah, let me go back to my test car. So again, if you did want to, this goes back to what I said earlier about if you did, say, for example, wanted to modify like any of the DLC cars, create a separate folder in that game directory and rename it, I guess, as far as so that when you find it in here, it won't list it as a DLC, right? So by creating that one there, so highly advised, I guess, as far as not a good idea, I guess, as far as to mess with your DLC or anything like that, I guess, as far as directly. Create a separate folder in that game directory. That way when you come in here, it'll have two different renditions of that. One will be with DLC at the suffix of it, and one won't. And then you'll know which one you can edit, I guess, as far as do whatever changes you want to it. I have played around. I never saved it. Just playing around with this, I took, say, for example, the Reptilia. See if I can find that. So a little boat Reptilia. Where's that darn thing? Yeah, this one's DLC. So because this one is with the drag DLC, right? So you can see how it's just DLC. I don't have a separate folder for it. So it would have the same name as long as I keep that car the same name. It'll listen in here without the DLC suffix to it. So if we load this one up, let's just say, for example, this was my one I want to mod with that separate folder. I can make whatever changes I want to it, to do whatever I want to it, save it, and then I'll have its own separate folder without touching the original DLC. We could probably go through the motions of that, I guess, as far as just to kind of get an idea of how that works. Let's do that real quick. I'm feeling kind of frisky. So let's switch this over here really quick, and we're going to create a separate folder for this boat Reptilia. Just to kind of give you an example of how this works. If you haven't done that already. Okay, let me switch this over. Darn thing wasn't working. Alright, here we go. So what we want to do is find that same car. So I still got it up on my other screen here. So that's a Bolt Reptilia 6. So that's going to be this guy right here. Bolt Reptilia R6. This is going to be the DLC deal for that. So what we want to do is take this. We want to make a copy of it. Paste it. Okay, and then it should have put that as a separate copy. Oh, probably put it all the way up here. Why did they reshift on me like that? So there's the copy. Well, what I'm going to do though is rename some files here, just for clarity. Now I'm gonna have to get this over. So this is my other directory. This is my example game directory, I guess, as far as for the files. So I'm gonna have to move this over once I get this renamed. So we want to do this one as, I'm just gonna put _edit. Just so I know it's separate. It can be just that simple. But also what I'm going to change is this config. So one is going to be for the PN8, and one's going to be for the, I forget what that one's called. So there's a PN8. Where is it listed here? Why does it not have that on there? So this one's bolt. One of them is going to be the PN8, which I think is the config 1. Yeah, here's the PN8. So this is going to be what's also called the Hennessy by the Quality of Life mod. That gets renamed. So this is our PN8. That's our high-end bolt Reptilia. So let's make copies of these. Or actually, we're already in that edit, so we don't need to make a copy of these. So what I do want to do is make this PN8 edit. This way, when I open it up in the editor, I will know exactly which one it is without a doubt. I'm just going to put edit, save that one, and then also on the original config here, the standard config, which doesn't have a name. Let me see. Let me make sure I get the right field. So that's in the car version name. So you can't necessarily leave it blank, but we're going to put this one on here. We're going to do standard. And we'll do this one as also with edit. Like so. And then we'll go ahead and save that. Now what I'm going to need to do is actually move this whole folder that we just created based on the one we, the original edit. This is highly recommended and suggested as far as to do it this way instead of messing with the files that are in there by default. Just to save yourself that headache. So what I need to do is move this over to my game PC. Let's do that. I'm going to open this one up. Yep, there we go. Sweet. Alrighty then. So we're in that. So I need to move this folder. It's going to take me a second. Just bear with me. So for now, I think I'm going to finish things off here by getting back into the game, and I don't know, maybe we'll do some drags really quick. I'm feeling kind of frisky. So that's just a really quick rundown, I guess, as far as what's going on with the editor and how to get your models in there and your config files and all that kind of nonsense. But yeah, that's how I've been able to mod other cars. I've even modded, I guess, as far as speaking of which, we got another one of Smokey's cars. I did that turbo version of the 2012 Camaro. Same idea. Just going through those motions. I just created a separate config file within that car mod that's available on the Steam Workshop, and just created a separate folder within that mod folder for that, because when you download a mod car, as far as that's going to be in your mods folder. I could probably go through that. Yeah, let me load it up in here real quick, then yeah, I can show that if anybody doesn't know. So here's Smokey's 2012 Camaro. So I have been able to make my own configuration for turbo. So you can see all the other configuration that Smokey's applied to include the old school. This is my turbo, using that same car to be able to get the turbo engine into it. And that's the only config that's on, is to be able to put the turbo engine into it. And like I've already explained before, you only have the one position for that. So in order to get that to work properly, I had to put a different downpipe into the side pipes so that configuration would work properly. You can see how I did that kind of roughly. But to go into where those files are located, if you didn't know, we can load that up here really quick. Let's go back to, so this is also a nice feature if you've got the quality of life mod. If you want to go right back into the game, let's go to main menu. Doesn't give you that option if you don't have the quality of life mod, as far as I can remember. So highly recommended and suggested as far as try out that quality of life mod. And what I wanted to do is actually exit out. Yep, we already got it saved. Actually, I need to keep that on. Alright, so just to kind of give you an idea of where these are located. So I got a shortcut here to my workshops items. And this is for car mechanic. It might be different for you. It necessarily might be different for you, I guess, as far as when it comes to what folder it might be. But it'll be in your Steam Apps Workshop and your content. Right? Find the folder. For me, it's this. And then these are all the different mods that I have for Car Mechanic Sim. And sometimes you got to go through each of these independently, I guess, as far as to figure out which one's what. So that one's that. So the 2012 Camaro, I think it's this one right here. Yeah, here's Smokey's Camaro. So what I did, I guess, as far as to create that turbo config, and again, it all comes into succession. He has up to 7, which this one here is the old school. Oh, that's the body, my bad. So if I go into this config, this one's the old school, right? So all I had to do is just make a copy of that file, renamed it to the SS Turbo, and then I saved that, and then you can load that up into the editor, and then just put whatever parts that you want onto that config. That's up. So that's just that simple. Now, granted, the original mod, I guess as far as it's available on the Steam Shop, doesn't have that config. I only have that, but I haven't seen any more updates, I guess, as far as to this model, I guess, as far as in a while. So even if it does update, right, it's still going to have this config for myself, because well, the way Steam works, I guess, as far as it'll still update the mod if Smokey goes ahead and edits it. It's only going to edit the stuff, I guess, as far as that originally came with that mod. So it's not going to touch, I guess, as far as your the ones that you add to it. So that's kind of a nice thing about it. Probably another thing to add, I guess, as far as while I'm in here, whenever you add a config to this, you also got to add a body config. So make a corresponding body config for that. Otherwise, it won't load, either in the editor or the game. So do necessarily make sure that if you want a separate config for any car, be it a default car, going through that process like I showed, or a mod car, when you make a separate copy of a config, make sure you correspond that to a body config. Now, you don't necessarily, in a lot of cases, need to do anything with the body config. Just make a copy of that, and you don't necessarily have to make any changes to it, but just to make sure you have that corresponding one to it, and then make your appropriate name change and such in this config file. Load it up in the editor, make your changes, save it, and that'll actually apply to that config file. So when you save your model, I guess, as far as in the editor, that's what it'll save to, is that right there, to include your CMS file if you made any model changes. But typically, I guess, as far as this one right here. So I did this one back in October, which is a couple months ago, as you can see, and nothing else has been done, I guess, as far as since then. So there you go. Lesson learned: to make a new car config by myself, make a new pair of body config. Yes, yeah. So that's the takeaway from that that explanation there. So again, no matter if it's a mod car, I guess, as far as a Steam Workshop mod, or if it's in your game files, which I can go into here. Let me go this route. So if I open up my games, I got all my games here. So this is my game. This is where I was trying to get that other mod one, which I'll probably do that later. I know what I was going to show. So if you did want to edit, I can probably do it this way. Let's do it this way now that I'm in here. If you go to our streaming assets, so instead of using it the other directory I was showing earlier, I can do it this way. You go into cars. Same process, really. So instead of getting that one from my other directory, I can just get it from here. So we'll make a copy of this. So it's going to be a little bit of repetition here, but you'll get the idea. Again, it comes down to how the game, as far as its connection to Steam, recognizes certain names, I guess, as far as for things. So it's going to be a C8. There we go. Now it should let us open it. Okay, so save that. So it comes down the name and the configs, I guess, as far as want to rename those, I guess, as far as inside of that. Save those. So I'm going to rename this file, because what I have come to find, like I said, I guess, as far as creating my own cars, as far as the mod goes, the folder name coincides with the name of the CMS file. So I go car underscore whatever, blah blah. Okay, so let's do this. Put that after the underscore. Paste. And just for clarity on this one here, I'm gonna lowercase those. Be just like that. Cool. That should work, I guess, as far as in theory now. There we go. So let's make sure that works. Should be good to go now. Let's see what we got. Alright, so we're going to get back out of this. Get back over to the main menu so we can get into the editor. Alright, opens up the C1. Now we should definitely still be able to see the DLC signification to the other Reptilio. There it goes. So here's the edit. Yep, so it actually shows DLC on both of them, but at least you'll know, I guess, as far as by doing the proper naming of the items, I guess, as far as in the file, which one is which. So I don't remember it doing this, but at least you'll know, I guess, as far as which one's the edit and which one's not. So hopefully that'll give some clarification. Just make sure the folder name coincides with the name of the CMS file itself. And from what I've come to find, I guess as far as it does help, I guess as far as having all lowercase, I guess as far as the CMS folder, because that's what it'll do by default, based on export, I guess as far as from Unity. So again, it's just the way the game understands it. But anyway, that's a little bit more clarification in the editor, I guess as far as which one's which. I guess if nothing else, if it comes down to it, if you don't want to do it that way, you can always make a separate config file and name it something separate, I guess as far as, and you can make your appropriate changes on your parts, I guess as far as that way too. That's definitely one way that it'll work, as far as just to create a separate config file. Make sure you have that corresponding body config as well as your config, and not have to go through all the motions I just did. But I know I've got it to work, I guess, as far as previously. It might be just because I'm trying to use a DLC. That could necessarily be the problem, as opposed to just the default car. Instead of going this route, I'm going to delete this folder completely. Yeah, let's just delete that one all entirely. And then from here, what I'll do is I'll just add my own config. And again, from what I've come to find, it doesn't matter if even the game has an update to the DLC of this deal. It's only going to touch, I guess, as far as what the original files were. So anything you add to it, if there's any changes to those config files that you might need to apply to your own config, that's the only thing that's gonna matter. So what we'll do is we'll copy this file. So we're gonna take this approach instead, as far as just to create separate config files. And again, it's all in succession. That really bugs me though, I guess, as far as why that didn't work. Because I know that worked for me before. I just don't remember how I did it. So yeah, it might be behoove you as far as just to go this route. Make two separate config files with the coinciding. Make sure they correspond to each other with the body config and the regular parts config. Name that. Okay, let's do that. Alright, so now we got that config. Now we can go into this config. This is based on the PNA. I'll just put edit to this one. Okay. So let's say, for example, we want to make this particular one to have the turbocharged engine in it. Just for giggles. Yep, we don't need to do anything with that one. Okay. Now if we go back into the game, we should have that config for the edit. Just based under the one DLC. So it'll just have the one listing in the game. Try that out. Alright, so we're going to back out of here. But I can definitely assure you, I guess, as far as I had it working right. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't save that. But worst come to worst, you can just create a separate config file, like we just did there, before coming into here. And what it'll have now is a PNA edit. Now you can load it up that way. Now you can still take the approach if you wanted to. You know, I could have saved that one folder just as far as the edit. The problem I was having there, obviously it wouldn't load in the editor. So I don't know if that's something they may have changed, I guess, as far as with that, but I know it did work previously. So I don't know if something updated to the game that I didn't realize, I guess, as far as that disallowed being able to make an edited folder of a DLC car. I don't know. But the other workaround is, like I said, you can do it this way. So I can make changes to this car. And let's say, for example, I wanted to put a turbo engine into this one. Let's play around with that for a second. I don't think there's any turbo C8s out there that I know of. So let's go to engine. So what we would do is we look for the engine, which is going to be this guy. That's a mid, right? Okay, so we got the engine in there in that same position. So obviously, we, like I said, we can't change this position. Now, if we needed to, with this configuration, this is going to be separate to the other configuration as far as engine swaps go. So to elaborate, I guess, as far as when I explained it earlier, if you have a separate configuration for any one particular car within the same folder, you can't change this position because that's going to be separate to the other configurations, right? You just won't be able to have all the same swaps as this original configuration had, if that makes sense. So on this one here, it was just the LS3 mid was a swap, so that only had the one engine. Is that right? I don't remember how that was set up there. But anyway, let's say, for example, we want to put a turbo on this one here. If we found it necessary that we had to move this engine placement, we could do that in this config. But then, as far as any other swaps that we will apply to this config, they wouldn't work. So, like, everything wouldn't line up. So, like, for example, the way this turbo is, it should be on the backside. Let's see here. So the turbos are, oh god, that's clipping into the into the suspension. This would need a little bit of work, I guess, as far as to make it a little bit more feasible. This would probably require, now that I look at this, as far as a different exhaust setup, I guess, as far as to make that work. Because this one here would obviously work, because nothing lines up. But you can see how the turbos are clipping into the control arms. It's interesting. So I wonder, we would need to have it as a mid because we need this transaxle, this transmission, I guess, as far as for this drive axle. So this would be a little bit, I guess, as far as to get that to work properly. We would probably have to model a separate piece for the exhaust, like we were talking earlier, in order for that to look right. That's basically how that would come down. So let's see, let's go to parts and check out exhaust. I just want to see what's going on here. Going to, so as I look at this, as far as I think it's definitely possible, but I'm not going to spend a whole nother part of stream to do that. I'll figure some stuff out with this one there, and you can feel free to check it out yourself there, folks. And hopefully you learn something as far as with the editor. I'm starting to get hungry. I'm not gonna lie, as far as I'm definitely pretty hungry, and had a lot of fun, I guess, as far as showing on what's going on with the editor and what's going on with getting a modded car in there. Hopefully you did learn something, I guess, as far as from that. I know I did. Like, for example, why creating a separate folder, I guess, as far as didn't work, I guess, as far as to show up in the list properly. But there's definitely other ways to go about it, and this one seems to work. So, yeah, I think I'm going to see what I can come up with here, because I don't think we have a turbocharged C8. It would be a kind of an interesting thing to try out there. I think it's definitely possible, though. Stick around, I guess, first for the raid, folks, and hope to see you again real soon. Bye for now.